Within the front section of the aircraft, layers of computers, cables, and processors link sensors to cockpit displays, turning raw.
Our journey will constantly move between the outer skin and the inner systems, watching how structure, electronics, and software work.
As the aircraft approaches a simulated attack run, the main internal weapons bay doors begin to open. Within the tail, electronic actuators translate computer commands into the precise motion of rudders and elevators, adjusting. Streams of encrypted data flow from the aircraft to ground stations, turning every flight into a moving laboratory for performance and reliability.
In some missions, the J-20 receives target data from larger surveillance aircraft, allowing it to remain silent. Even with doors closed, each bay holds weapons in a constant state of readiness, wired into computers that keep track of counts, status, and targeting options.
Stay with me for 18 minutes as we dive inside China's J-20 stealth fighter and uncover the hidden systems that give it power in the sky.
Is the J-20, a twin-engine stealth fighter created to fly far, hit fast, and remain almost invisible to enemy radar.
Inside this pointed nose sits a powerful phased array radar that scans the sky.
In front of the pilot stretches a full glass cockpit, wide digital screens merging flight data, targeting information, and navigation into one clear picture.
Every line on the body of the J-20 is shaped for stealth, blending wings and fuselage to deflect radar waves and hide the jet's true shape.
A Chinese test pilot sits inside this cockpit, supported by ground teams and engineers who have spent years refining each system of this advanced fighter.
The pilot flies with a hands-on throttle and stick control layout, keeping one hand on power and the other on direction at all times for instant reaction.
The tinted canopy shields the pilot from harsh light and reduces radar reflections, while still letting him see clearly across the entire horizon.
Within the front section of the aircraft, layers of computers, cables, and processors link sensors to cockpit displays, turning raw.
Our journey will constantly move between the outer skin and the inner systems, watching how structure, electronics, and software work.
When the pilot pulls back in plugins, twin afterburning engines pour out thrust, lifting the stealth fighter into thinner air where speed and range grow even stronger.
The main display blends flight attitude, engine health, and weapons readiness, so the pilot never has to search across scattered gauges in the middle of a demanding maneuver.
On a separate screen, a moving map shows mission routes, refueling points, and friendly positions, making long-distance patrols easier to manage.
The pilot's helmet visor can show flight and aiming cues directly in front of his eyes, allowing him to look toward a target and instantly understand where it is.
A Chinese instructor in a nearby aircraft observes every move, evaluating how the pilot manages energy, formations.
Within the central fuselage, large fuel tanks are wrapped by strong support beams, giving the fighter both long range and the stick.
As the aircraft approaches a simulated attack run, the main internal weapons bay doors begin to open. Inside the weapons bay, missiles are mounted on launch rails that swing out briefly to fire, allowing the J-20 to. Each missile carries its own seeker and guidance brain, but it relies on the jet's sensors and data links to know when to launch and where to fly.
Cables and data channels connect radar, weapons, and navigation units to central processors, turning streams of numbers into a single tactical picture for the pilot.
Near the front of the aircraft, an infrared sensor quietly watches for the heat signatures of other aircraft, giving the pilot a passive.
On screen, radar tracks and infrared detections merge into a unified list, letting the pilot see which targets are brightest and most dangerous at a glance. Flies along broad, blended wings and canard surfaces, creating lift and control authority that helps this heavy aircraft turn more tightly than its size suggests. Within the tail, electronic actuators translate computer commands into the precise motion of rudders and elevators, adjusting. When the pilot advances the throttle, turbines spin faster, afterburners ignite, and the hot exhaust rushing out the back push.
Air enters the engines, is squeezed by spinning compressor blades, mixed with fuel, and ignited in the combustor.
During training, pairs of J-20 fighters fly together, testing how their sensors share information and how two stealth aircraft can coordinate.
A secure data link system allows the pilot to see friendly aircraft and ground stations, turning individual jets into nodes of a larger airborne network.
With the weapons bay sealed, the underside of the aircraft appears smooth, reducing radar reflections and aerodynamic drag at high cruise speeds.
Up front, the landing gear tucks into narrow bays surrounded by navigation units and wiring, all braced to survive hard landings and fast takeoffs.
Even in a world of digital glass displays, small backup instruments remain, ready to guide the pilot if the primary systems ever fail.
High over the Earth, a hard turn pulls moist air into swirling patterns over the wing roots, revealing the strong lift and beck forces shaping the fighter's path.
Metal and composite frames inside the fuselage carry the twisting and bending forces of flight, spreading stress so the outer skin can remain thin for stealth. Warning indicators alert the pilot when temperatures rise or pressures drift, giving him time to adjust power or attitude before small issues become serious.
Training teaches the pilot to divide his attention between screens and the sky, always balancing mission goals with the constant need to know what is happening outside.
Within the structure, pumps move fuel from tank to tank, maintaining ballast so the aircraft's center of gravity stays in a range that keeps handling predictable. For extreme range missions, aerial refueling allows the J-20 to extend its reach, linking its fuel system to a tank.
Electronics generate heat, so cooling ducts and heat exchangers move warm air and fluids away from sensitive components.
Along the spine, antennas and housings contain communication gear and electronic support sensors, allowing the fighter to...
Electronic warfare systems can detect approaching radar waves, analyze their patterns, and respond with jamming techniques designed to confuse or blind hostile sensors.
During a simulated engagement, the pilot receives launch authorizations on confirming target identity and distance.
The missile drops into the airstream, ignited its engine, and races forward, guided initially from the fighter.
After a training shot, empty mounting points in the bay are inspected by ground crews, who check for structural stress and prepare the fighter for the next sortie.
Eventually, even the most advanced fighter must return to Earth, descending from thin air down through weather and turbulence.
During descent, the pilot manages speed with throttle and drag devices, keeping the glide path stable so the heavy aircraft can touch down gently on the runway.
Hydraulic systems drive thick landing gear legs into place, locking them for impact, while wheels begin to spin in the wind before they even meet the surface.
As the fighter flares and settles onto the runway, shock absorbers in the gear legs compress, spreading the impact and protecting both pilot and structure.
Even on the ground, engines produce waves of heat, and ground crews maintain a safe distance, guiding the aircraft with hand signals and radio instructions.
In training scenarios, flights repeat again and again, each sortie collecting data that engineers use to adjust software and refine performance.
Chinese engineers monitor live telemetry from the aircraft, tracking engine temperatures, structural loads, and system status while the fighter moves through each maneuver.
Streams of encrypted data flow from the aircraft to ground stations, turning every flight into a moving laboratory for performance and reliability.
Digital checklists replace paper, guiding the pilot step by step through startup, weapons arming, and shutdown, reducing the chance of human error during complex procedures.
When every system shows within limits, the pilot can focus purely on flying and tactics, confident that hidden machines inside the fuselage are performing their roles.
In a hard turn, forces try to twist the wings and nose apart, but reinforced bars and joints keep the shape intact, preserving both stealth and control.
Approaching and crossing the speed of sound, pressure waves form around the aircraft, and control computers subtly adjust forces to keep the ride as stable as possible.
Inside avionics bays, circuit boards and high-speed communication lines move information nearly at the speed of light.
At dusk, the J-20 blends into the darkening sky, using both natural light and advanced sensors to continue.
Night mode reduces glare and preserves the pilot's night vision, turning bright daytime colors into softer shades that still deliver precise information.
Navigation lights along the wings and tail keep the fighter visible to friendly aircraft, while brightness levels can be adjusted to match mission requirements.
In total darkness, radar energy illuminates distant aircraft, bouncing back to the J-20 and drawing.
Synthetic vision uses stored terrain data to draw the world even when clouds or darkness hide it, giving the pilot a clear sense of altitude and clearance.
At extreme altitude, the sky turns darker and the Earth's curve becomes visible, extending the fighter's line of sight and even in cruise, pumps feed precise amounts of fuel into the engines, matching consumption with thrust to keep range predictions accurate for the mission planners. Coordinated missions may involve multiple fighters at staggered altitudes, each using sensors and data links to cover different layers of the airspace.
Flight control computers blend pilot input with sensor readings, preventing stalls and structural overloads by making constant micro-adjustments to every surface.
A ground force indicator reminds the pilot how much stress the turn is playing on his body and on the aircraft, guiding him to stay within safe but aggressive limits.
Specially shaped control surfaces and careful software tuning allow brief high-angle maneuvers, useful for pointing sensors and weapons quickly without losing full control.
Inside the nose, the radar assembly can steer its invisible beam electronically, scanning side to side without needing to swing the entire antenna mechanically. In some missions, the J-20 receives target data from larger surveillance aircraft, allowing it to remain silent.
On his screen, the pilot sees which targets have been detected by other platforms, choosing when to move in and when to remain hidden.
Mission planning divides the sky into zones, and the fighter's navigation computer guides it along safe corridors.
Auxiliary power units and batteries keep vital systems alive when main engines are shut down or running at low power.
From the first light of dawn to deep night, the J-20 operates as a system of systems, where structure.
Behind the technology sits a person, carrying personal motivations, training, and discipline, turning.
When the aircraft returns to the hangar, technicians open panels along the fuselage, checking wiring, connectors, and...
Seen in cross-section, the J-20 reveals layers of interconnected systems, each one dependent on others.
A Chinese aviation expert explains how decades of research, testing, and iteration were required to bring a fighter of this.
Small access panels allow crews to reach deep systems without removing large sections of the fuselage, balancing stealth requirements with the need for fast maintenance.
Pilots spend hours in classrooms studying diagrams of fuel systems, electrics, and emergency procedures long before they sit in the real cockpit.
Only after mastering theory and simulators do pilots step into the live aircraft, carrying mental maps of every system that surrounds them in flight.
In formation, multiple fighters weave a net of overlapping sensors, communication links, and weapon coverage across the sky.
Even with doors closed, each bay holds weapons in a constant state of readiness, wired into computers that keep track of counts, status, and targeting options.
From this vantage point, it is easy to forget the countless screws, wires, seals, and lines working together inside the airframe to keep the fighter in the air.
Bundles of cables carry not only power but also commands, sensors, and feedback, making them the nervous system linking every part of the aircraft.
Forward canard surfaces provide extra lift and control, their small but constant adjustments smoothing out turbulence and keeping the nose pointed where it must go. Over water, long-range sensors and communication systems become especially critical, helping the fighter locate distant aircraft and
long-range navigation and fuel management tools show how far the jet can fly, helping the pilot and planners decide when to turn home or call for refueling.
When the mission is complete, the fighter turns home, engines humming steadily while the internal systems continue their constant checks and balance.